welcome everyone to Canadian Yoga live streams. We're doing a soccer live stream video, and today I'm coming online today to to bring you another soccer video. And apparently, I'm bringing this soccer video to you, for the football and soccer fans out there, just to give you guys a heads up about some interesting news that has been uncovered since was it last year. It's been confirmed that after the 2026 World Cup, after this World Cup concludes next year, um, in 2030, the next World Cup will be held in the country of Morocco. Um, so it's been confirmed. There was really speculation on whether Morocco or Spain will be hosting the 2030 World Cup, but now it's official that since last December, I'm just covering this has been months ago, but for those who are not aware, Morocco is the country that is hosting the 2030 World Cup. So without further ado, I'm reading from the article cafonline.com, and this article was posted on December 11th, 2024. So since Morocco is confirmed as co-host of the 2030 FIFA World Cup, an historic move. Um, let's get into the article. Um, it says here Morocco has been confirmed as one of the hosts for the 2030 FIFA World Cup, marking a monumental moment in African football. Alongside Spain and Portugal, the North African country's selection as a co-host signifies its growing influence in the global football landscape. The decision was unanimously approved during an extraordinary FIFA Congress held via video conference on Wednesday, with all 211 member associations represented. FIFA praised the joint Morocco-Spain-Portugal bid, which scored an impressive 4.2 out of 5 in its evaluation for exceeding the minimum hosting requirements. This will make Morocco only the second African nation to host the World Cup, following South Africa in 2010. This historic tournament will also feature matches in Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay to commemorate the centenary of the first World Cup in 1930, held in Uruguay. While the opening games will take place in South America, Morocco will play a central role in the main event, further cementing its status as a key player in global football. For Africa, Morocco's co-hosting role represents a moment of pride and progress. The country has a long history of football excellence and has made significant investments in sports infrastructure. Its selection as a host showcases Africa's ability to stage world-class events and contributes to the continent's legacy in football history. On a global scale, the 2030 World Cup will be the first to be hosted across two continents, reinforcing FIFA's commitment to uniting cultures and expanding football's reach. With this landmark decision, Morocco will join Spain and Portugal in welcoming the world to a celebration of football diversity and heritage. So there we have it, guys. In this article here, Morocco is confirmed to be the country that's hosting the 2030 World Cup, but also there'll be, I guess, preliminaries taking place in South America, and then it's going to be hosted in Morocco. But this comes with some questionable choices and questionable concerns that some animal rights groups have raised in regards to that. Apparently, there's been reported in the news that, I'm sorry for these dog lovers out there, but in Morocco, in the country of Morocco, they are culling Moroccan dogs before the 2030 World Cup. So I'm assuming that they are basically exterminating them. So according to this article from theathletic.com, I'm just covering that. But there's just a couple of things that's going on in Morocco. Um, every country, I just want to say this before I start, every country has its own issues, and nobody's perfect. And not every country is perfect. Every country has its own problems. The U.S. has its own problems. South America has its own problems. The Caribbean got its own problems. Africa, Europe, everywhere has its own problems. But the animal rights groups have protested to FIFA over Moroccans, the Moroccan dogs being called before 2030 World Cup, and I mean, they might be overbreeding too much, so the Moroccan government might be trying to bring the population down. But let's get into this article here. So it says here, a collective of 10 animal rights groups have written to FIFA to protest against the increased capture and culling of stray dogs in Morocco ahead of the 2030 World Cup. Morocco is a rabies endemic country, with efforts taking place over the previous decade to reduce the population of infected dogs. Rabies is a viral disease transmitted through bite, which is almost fatal once symptoms appear. The country passed laws in 2019 to manage dogs through a trap, neuter, and vaccine release scheme (TNVR), but the animal rights groups claim authorities have been culling stray dogs instead of with a mandate of cleaning the streets before the tournament, according to a letter sent to FIFA. It says here that, quote, the current and any future culling of stray dogs not only contradicts the national law but also violates the principles of allocation of national funds to TNDR projects, with the latter being used as an argument for Morocco to receive the bid for hosting the World Cup in the first place, open to the states. A spokesperson from the Embassy of Morocco told BBC this week that the nation had an unwavering commitment to humane and sustainable solutions for managing stray dog populations while prioritizing public health and animal welfare. Before we go forward, rabies is a problem in even in the U.S. Animals get rabies, and rabies is a virus. It affects everyone everywhere. Um, it is a danger to people and a danger to animals. So it's important to get dogs and any animal vaccinated for rabies because rabies can be transferred through bite, as the article says. Of course, I can understand the need to call, to basically vaccinate the dogs, and even, if the dog's not safe, if the dog should not be considered safe for public safety, obviously that animal has to be put down because you don't want that animal to be a threat to humans and also to other animals. So, that's what I have to say about that. But let's continue the article here. It says, the article, so it's, I read the part about this spokesperson from the embassy. Continuing here, the animal rights groups who include Euro Group of Animals and Four Paws say FIFA should play a role in preventing the practice. Quote unquote, says here, with 5 years to go, Morocco still has sufficient time to implement humane dog population management practices that are as continuing. Hence, we are calling for FIFA to use its authority to hold the competent authorities accountable for implementation of the existing Moroccan laws on dog population management, which strictly prohibit culling. That is because culling has been shown to have no permanent effect on population size and can even risk an increase in rabies. Continuing here, alongside Morocco, the 2030 World Cup will be hosted by Spain and Portugal, with three matches also taking place in Uruguay, Paraguay, and Argentina to mark the competition's centenary. FIFA has been contacted for comment. So here's the article from February 19th, talking about animal rights groups protesting FIFA over culling of Moroccan dogs before the World Cup in 2030. Now, the article that I'm reading further goes into more detail about that. Um, Now, of course, we're all dog lovers. I'm a dog lover. I'm also a cat lover too. Um, I have no issues with pets, but at the same time, if dogs or cats do get rabies, those things have to be treated immediately so that they cannot cause any, not be a threat to public safety. So let's continue here. The article here from vettimes.com. So it's written March 13th, 2025. That group calls for FIFA World Cup host acts in Stray Dog Row. Continuing here, says a veterinary group has demanded action from World Football governing body over the alleged treatment of stray dogs in the future World Cup host nation. Critics fear up to 3 million dogs plus other homeless animals could be euthanized in Morocco during preparations for the 2030 event, which is due to co-hosts with Spain and Portugal. Although Moroccan authorities have denied the claims, aggressive veterinary Association (PBA) has now urged FIFA to strip the state of one of the tournament. Only 3 months later, after 3 months after its staging rights were formally confirmed, um, the association has said, "quote For the country to go forward as a World Cup host, FIFA should make the cessation of Morocco's unconscionable dog control methods in its non-negotiable prerequisite." Close quote. PBA's intervention follows calls for the International Animal Coalition (IAWPC) for Morocco to be suspended as a host until the killing program is halted. The group, whose members include several UK-based charities, claims FIFA has so far refused to act on evidence presented to it, despite a bid evaluation report emphasizing Morocco's commitment to the protection of animal rights. So far, FIFA has not commented on the issue, while a senior Moroccan official claimed the allegations had no basis and some international reporting was completely unfounded, Moroccan news reported. But supporters of the campaign against the call include two of the PBA's patrons, the zoologist Dame Jane Goodall and actor Peter Egan. The PBA has also described some of the methods being used in the program as an abomination, adding, "Neutering programs would be a far more effective and humane approach to this issue." The tournament's organization has already proved controversial on environmental grounds because of plans to stage the opening matches in South America to commemorate the centenary of the first World Cup competition in Uruguay. Morocco is due to host the African Cup of Nations later this year. So, um, there's a further article talking about what's going on with the vet group. The PVA wants to FIFA to pull the rights of the World Cup to be hosted by Morocco because of this issue. Um, you know, I can see that I can see it from their point of view. You know, and honestly, if you're going to kind of want to stop the babies from happening, maybe neutering would be a good way to go about it. Um, the neutering would definitely help in a lot of ways because if you neuter a the male dog is less aggressive, not so aggressive towards people. Same thing for the females. Um, it just makes sense that that should be the case. And for the they obviously probably have this thing at heart. I don't know. I don't really know what to think about this, but it's obviously they have their own point of view and they are pushing for this to be recognized, and maybe it should be recognized. I don't know, but I'm not going to talk about the politics here. I'm just talking about the situation that's going on. Obviously, this is a point of contention for the veterinarians, for this association, the PVA, and the International Animal Coalition and the Progressive Veterinary Association definitely have some valid points because they are doctors who study how to take care of animals and know how to take care of animals. So, but obviously, the government is doing it for its own reasons, and obviously they don't run things in Morocco, so they have the choice to. It is ultimately up to them and their decision to decide what they want to do with how they run their country. So obviously we'll have to see what's going to happen going forward. Um, I'll make sure I try to bring more information about this issue, which is kind of interesting problem that's occurring. Um, Now, this also is also a sad state of events. FIFA is being uh, being called out for evidence of ignoring child, of wrongdoing in Morocco. I'm just being careful of what I say because it's YouTube. And so it says here this article was written March 27th, 2025, and it's been uncovered that President Gianni Infantino at the friendly match between FIFA Morocco legends and FIFA World Legends during the FIFA Club World Cup 2022 held at Prince Moulay Abdullah Stadium in Rabat, Morocco. That's a picture, basically. That's a picture of them right there, the Gianni Infantino and in Morocco right there. So, according to this article, it's from fairsq.org. FIFA ignoring evidence of child harm in Morocco. So FIFA is ignoring credible evidence that its operations are causing children in Morocco to be exposed to violence and harm. This is sad news. Fair Square said today after reviewing extensive documentation relating to inhumane culling of dogs in Morocco since 2023. Of course, this ties in with what's going on um, with the dog culling going on. FIFA's operations appear to have led to a significant increase in the culling of dogs, many of whom are shot or poisoned and their bodies are dumped in wastelands. And there is credible evidence that children who witness the killings are suffering serious trauma as a consequence. The killings appear to have intensified since FIFA's decision to host multiple events in the country. Correspondence between animal and child rights campaigners and FIFA indicate that football's world governing body is refusing to acknowledge clear evidence of the harm being caused to children and its responsibility to take action to prevent it, and has instead relied on evidence free assurances from the Moroccan authorities. Quote unquote, this is from Fair Square co director Nick McGeehan. In ignoring inexcusable animal cruelty and the entirely preventable harm and suffering this is causing an untold number of children, FIFA appears yet again to be prioritizing its relationship with tournament hosts over the well-being of the vulnerable groups affected in its operations. Um, so FIFA announced on December 16, 2022, that Morocco would host the FIFA World Cup in February 2023, with 7 matches being played in Tangiers and Rabat. According to multiple media reports published in January and February 2023, FIFA's announcement prompted Moroccan authorities to initiate the culling of city stray dogs populations immediately before the start of the tournament. Videos and images of the cull and its aftermath indicate that these were carried out in an inhumane fashion. Sources in Morocco with knowledge of the authorities' response to the country's stray dog problem, speaking under a condition of anonymity, said that the escalation of the killings was directly linked to the FIFA tournament at a time when Morocco was known to be interested in hosting the 2030 Men's World Cup. In June 2023, the European Link Coalition (ELC), an organization that conducts research and advocacy on the link between animal cruelty and human trauma and violence, contacted FIFA via its confidential online reporting portal and raised a safeguarding complaint. FIFA did not respond to the complaint, but the ELC were able to make contact with them by calling a member of FIFA's safeguarding team directly. Beresco has examined the subsequent correspondence between the ELC, the International Animal Welfare Protection Coalition, um, that's what's mentioned in the previous article, and reviewed the body of evidence that the ELC has submitted to FIFA between June 2023 and March 2025, which includes videos and images of dogs being captured and killed, and written and verbal testimonies of children who witnessed the killing of dogs. The ELC and IAWPC also sent FIFA relevant reports from the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child to support their argument. In August 2023, the UN Committee on the Rights of Child Rights of the Child issued a general comment stating that the children's right to freedom from violence outlined in Article 19 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child involves the need to protect children from all forms of physical and psychological violence and from exposure to violence such as domestic violence or violence inflicted on animals. Although Fair Square has not independently verified the entire body of evidence that the ELC has sent to FIFA, it constitutes detailed prima facie and evidence of a serious and ongoing safeguarding and human rights concern. As a result of the information that the ELC sent to FIFA, FIFA held a remote meeting with the ELC in January 2024, representing the European Link Coalition with Deborah Wilson, a practicing psychotherapist with training in child safeguarding procedures, Dr. Roshni Latney, a criminologist whose research examines the link between animal cruelty and child trauma, and Dr. Ella Hilby, who has worked as a technical expert with the World Organization for Animal Health, WOHA, the World Health Organization, and the Food and Agriculture Organization on Dog Population Management. Ms. Wilson and Dr. Ladney told Fair Square that a senior member of FIFA's Safeguarding Division and a senior member of their Human Rights and Anti-Discrimination Division appeared to accept the argument that the issue invoked FIFA's responsibilities and expressed a desire to work with ELC on the problem. However, on March 11, 2024, a senior member of FIFA's World Rights Division sent an email to the ELC saying they were contemplating adding some more specific language to their future bidding requirements and that the ELC should raise their concerns with Morocco's National Human Rights Institute, who are preparing Morocco's independent human rights context assessment for the 2030 Men's World Cup bid. FIFA stopped replying to emails from the ELC from April 2024 onwards. So guys, there's a lot that's said here. I know I'm really this is a long article that I'm reading, and there's a lot that's said here that is really going into details about me and man. Yeah, not only is this affecting the I mean, they are killing dogs in Morocco, but the fact that they're doing it out in the open and not actually taking the steps to take care of this in a humane way away from the eyes of children. You basically cannot expose children to violently just shooting them in public and poisoning them in front of a child, because that will obviously produce something called post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, where children witness something so horrible that it really affects the mental ability, the mental psyche. Um, yeah, obviously Morocco needs to do something about this. So it says here, continuing the article here, FIFA's website states that the human protection is an essential part of safeguarding and refers to the action taken in response to a specific concern for child or children who may be suffering or are at risk of suffering from harm or abuse. It also states that when it comes to harassment, abuse, neglect, or exploitation, lack of action is not an option. So, according to FIFA, which published this in 2023, the bidding regulations for the 2030 and the 2034 World Cup, FIFA published in October 23, stating that, quote, FIFA is fully committed to conducting in its activities in connection with the bidding for and hosting of the FIHAL, the final competitions of the FIFA 2030 World Cup and the FIFA 2034 World Cup in accordance with sustainable event management standards and practices in line with um, ISO 20121, safeguarding principles for the protection of children and adults at risk and to respecting internationally recognized human rights in accordance with the new United Nations guiding principles on business and human rights. In November 2024, FIFA's assessment of Morocco's bid for the 2030 Men's World Cup referenced assurances from the Moroccan authorities that they had resolved the issue, stating that the bid has outlined in its commitments to the protection of human rights and has highlighted that since August 2024, expand um, the culling of animals is prohibited in the country, and government resources are being allocated to expand clinics and support for programs for stray dogs. Quote, close quote. Continuing the article, though, says, however, Morocco has not actually passed any new laws. They have simply reaffirmed a 2019 cooperation agreement promulgated by Morocco's Interior Ministry on the problem of stray street cats and dogs, and pledged extra funds for its implementation. The, the ELC has provided information to FIFA that clearly demonstrated the ineffectiveness of this agreement and may have provided FIFA with what they describe as irrefutable evidence that the killings have continued and evidence of the trauma that this is causing. Excuse me. They have provided FIFA with the evidence that they describe irrefutable evidence that the killings has continued and evidence of the trauma that this is causing to those who have witnessed them. These developments have come against the backdrop of an ever closer relationship between Morocco and FIFA. On March 14, 2024, FIFA President Gianni Infantino announced that the FIFA Council has approved the awarding of multi-year hosting rights under the U17 Women's World Cup to Morocco, which will host the 2014 tournament annually from 2025 to 2029. Wow, so in this year, they're going to be hosting the first U17 Women's World Cup in Morocco, and it's going to be for 4 years from 2025 to 2029. On December 16, 2024, a few days after Morocco was confirmed as a co-host of the 2030 Men's World Cup, FIFA signed an agreement with the government of Morocco and the Moroccan Football Association (FRMF) to open the organization's first ever Africa office in the country. So there we have it, guys. We have 4 articles talking about the situation in Morocco. Not only though Morocco is calling the dogs in Morocco, basically they are putting the dogs away to make room and space for the FIFA World Cup, the Men's FIFA World Cup that they want to host in 2030. But because, in spite of the fact that they're doing that to the population of dogs, the way that they're going about it is not a humane and not very um, effective method, because let's just say that um, they're what I want to say when I just look at the definition of culling is basically saying the definition of culling is reduction of wild animal population by selective slaughter. Um, so culling is basically they're basically doing it to reduce the population of dogs, to reduce the amount of dogs that are getting rabies. And rabies is really the problem here. That's the issue that that the government needs to focus on. And obviously they have to find a way around it to make something happen. I know they're referencing a law that was passed in 2019, but that law obviously needs to be more fleshed out and needs to be put into more detail to make sure that they can have the appropriate way of making sure things making sure that things can happen. The other thing that this is that this is an after effect, because the human rights groups are calling out the Moroccan government for doing that. They're saying that this is now, they're getting reports from children that children are witnessing this happening. And anytime you have something like a situation where that happens, where children should not witness violence of any kind, then it becomes a pretty serious matter. Obviously, children should not see any type of form of violence, and it is wrong. Let's admit it is wrong that children should be exposed to this. That they should be exposed to dogs being um, put down in such a horrible manner, for them to be shot and poisoned right in front of them. Obviously, it's not happening to anyone, but it's happening. The violence is happening right in front of the children. So obviously, government has to some things have to change in a way, and obviously different method has to be applied. But the thing is, I don't run things in Morocco. I'm from the U.S. I can't say anything about that. But this issue is something that does need to be addressed. Even though I can't do nothing, I'm definitely bringing this issue to everyone out there and let them know, hey, this is what's going on. This is what is going on currently before the World Cup happens in 2030. I know I did a previous video about, I think it was the 2034 World Cup. It's going to be held in Qatar, and I did that video because it caught my interest. And Qatar has even worse. Qatar, I think it's some other country. It's another country in the Middle East. But in that country, they have even more concerns, you know, human rights issues that are going on over there. And I did that previous video about that. But now we have the same thing happening in Morocco now. So obviously, hopefully, these things will be fixed and adjusted and changed so that that Morocco can still host the 2030 World Cup in Africa. And it's going to be real exciting to see what the developments are. It's going to be also real exciting to see the tournaments hosted in Africa. And 2030 is the 100th anniversary of FIFA and the World Cup. So that's pretty cool to know. Hopefully, some changes can be made, and we can definitely see a big turnaround happen. So can't wait to see that happen, guys. I'm just bringing this information to you to let you know about what's happening. Hopefully, I want to bring you some more information further about the World Cup and what's going on. And I know I did that in my previous video, um, but just wanted to bring this to your attention. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. So in the live stream, talk to you guys later. Enjoy the rest of your night and day.